Good evening and welcome to our Monday, June 9th meeting at 6:30 p.m. Call to order. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the June 9th, 2025 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 6:31 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. If you could please stand for the singing of O Canada. I tried to sing loud for our Edmonton Oilers who are in Florida this evening. All right, disclosures of pecuniary interest. Are there any? Seeing none, moving to approval of agenda. Are there any changes or amendments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, item 11A from the consent agenda being the 2025 large item pickup week summary has been pulled.
Thank you very much. So moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes. Were there any errors or omissions noted in the minutes of our last meeting? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, May 26, 2025. All those in favor? Carried. And now we get into the public meeting portion of our meeting. Zoning bylaw 0325. McDonnell or McDonald, depending on how you say it. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joanne Haley, and to my right, I have Mr. Ian McDonald, who's the applicant for this portion of our public meeting this evening. I'm going to start off with some required wording under the Ontario Planning Act. This is a public meeting under Section 34 of the Ontario Planning Act. Any person may attend the public meeting or make written or verbal representation either in support of or in opposition to the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at this public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaw is decided upon, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Council of the Township of South Glengarry to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at this public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaw is decided upon, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the OLT unless there are reasonable grounds to do so. I have, can we switch presentations, please? Sorry about that. I can't read it, sorry. What'd you say? Oh, go to the X. Oh, I couldn't hear you. Sorry. Sorry about that. Is it 04 or 05? It's 03. Then go to 05. I think maybe you have the wrong ones. Perfect, yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I can't read it, that's all. Go to slideshow. Where is it? Right to the right in the middle. Yeah, there. There we go. Sorry. I apologize for that, everyone. We have two public meetings this evening, so we opened the wrong presentation. So the meeting we're starting off with this evening is known as the McDonald Zoning Bylaw Amendment. This meeting will begin with a presentation summarizing the application, followed by a discussion period during which all attendees will have an opportunity to provide input on the proposed bylaw. So the property is located on a portion of part of Lot 38, Concession 1, north of the Raisin River, in the geographic township of Charlottenburg, now in South Glengarry, and it's also addressed as 19091 County Road 18. The subject property is approximately 60 acres in area and contains a single detached dwelling at the north end of the property. This is a map that shows the entire parcel of property. So as I mentioned, there's a dwelling at the north end. And the area that's proposed to be rezoned is located at the southwest corner of the subject property. And this map shows the exact location. And this area is approximately 2.5 acres. The purpose of this amendment is to rezone the southern portion, as I mentioned, it's 2.5 acres, of the subject property from rural to rural exception 22 to permit a workshop to accommodate a machining and metal fabrication business in addition to the other permitted uses in the rural zone. All other applicable provisions of our zoning bylaw 3809, as amended, will continue to apply. The applicant is proposing to build an approximately 4,300 square foot workshop to accommodate the machining and metal fabrication business known as Glengarry Millwright. This is an image of the proposed development site. We're facing north when we're looking at this, so we would be standing on County Road 18, looking north, and this is the existing subject area. And this photo was taken approximately 20 days ago when this sign was erected. Again, I have a few more photos just to show you the area. You'll see this portion is graveled, and then there's other portion that was being farmed. This is basically the footprint of the structure. I know this is very hard to read, but this information was provided to us through the building permit process. And this is an elevation of the structure. So you can see it's a metal building, approximately 21 feet high, and there would be two garage doors on the proposed structure. The subject property is currently designated rural district in the county official plan, and the proposed amendment does conform to the official plan and the provincial planning statement. As you're probably aware, when we receive zoning bylaw amendment applications, we're obligated to notify the public, and we do so in a few different forms. One, we place an ad in a local newspaper. Two, we are obligated to notify abutting property owners 120 meters around the subject property, and we are obligated to notify them by mail. And then we also put a sign on the property, and we post that information on our website. So far, during the 20-day period where we did this posting, to date, we've received 7 written comments regarding this amendment. I've summarized the comments and concerns that we received to date. I'm sure you'll hear more if there's members of the public that wish to speak. So the concerns that have been raised are regarding the volume and safety of traffic on County Road 18 in the intersection of Chapel Road, the possible negative impact on real estate values, diminished rural sense of place, character and lifestyle, and degradation of natural environment, excessive visual, chemical, and noise pollution. We've also circulated the application to the United Counties of SD&G Transportation Department. They have no objections to the proposed amendment, and they have received an application for an entrance permit from the property owner. This zoning amendment application will be subject to a decision of council. Typically, we try and bring a staff report back to the following meeting if we can, and so it will be brought to council with a recommendation in the near future and possibly the following meeting. At this time, Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask Mr. McDonald if there's anything he wishes to add, as this is his application, and then we can open it up to the public. So thank you.
Great. Mr. McDonald, is there anything you'd like to add to the presentation?
No, not at this time, I don't think.
Are there any questions of council at present before going to the public? Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. This is a question for Ms. Haley. Could you speak to what, like a variety of uses that are currently allowed in the rural area that would be considered commercial? Thanks.
So in the rural zoning, we would allow single detached dwellings. If the parcel of property is larger than 6.14 acres or 2.5 hectares, which this one is, it's allowed to be farmed. It would be allowed to have any type of farm building. So we can have a machine shed, grain bins, barns, and it could be a variety of barns. It could accommodate chickens, pigs, anything you can basically farm. You could have did I say grain drying facilities? Basically any farm building you can possibly think of. There's other uses that are permitted in the rural zone as well, where you can have home-based businesses. You can have sawmilling. You could have, I'm trying to remember all the lists off the top of my head, but there's quite a variety of uses in the rural zone that could accommodate both farming and residential.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions from around the council table, if anybody from the public wishes to speak, you can just please approach the lectern. We have a gray button, so you can push the gray button, speak into the microphone so we can hear online. Please identify your name and your address as well.
My name is Yvonne Daigle. I live at 5003 Chapel Road in Martintown, and my house faces directly the proposed site on which this 4,300 square foot industrial complex will be built. I'm going to read to you first an email that I sent to the township when I first read the notice on the side of the road. I said in that email, I live at 5003 Chapel Road, Martintown. Over the past 11 years, I've witnessed illegal dumping in the agricultural field directly in front of my home by Glengarry Millwrights. It began when they demolished the old Alexandria molding factory up in Alexandria, and they dumped the whole of the building, the demolished building, including all the gyprock, the rebar, the steel beams, the brick, all the debris from that building was moved from Alexandria in front of my house. And this is agricultural land in front of my house. It's always been used for either corn or beans, whatever they grow. After numerous complaints with the township, and in the end I had to complain to the Minister of Environment, the illegally dumped material was simply moved over to the next lot and covered with crushed stone. So when you look at the picture that you brought up from Highway 18, you'll see that it's all nicely covered, that debris, but it is construction debris. In addition to that debris that was covered up, steel beams and other construction material has been deposited and stored again on the lot directly in front of my home, first behind the dilapidated barn, and then to the rear of the property, north end, big I-beams. It's obvious to me that the owners of this property have no respect for the rural environment on which they've dumped the illegal material. They have no respect for the law which prohibits the dumping of illegal material. And they have no consideration for the neighbors that live in the immediate environment and have been forced to look at this. Now, having been approached by several of my neighbors who are also livid over this, I've been working on several additional arguments, more legal proposed, because we do intend to take this to the limit on the fighting. And the first thing that we determined was a definition for machining and metal fabrication. So machining refers to the process of shaping material through the removal of material, usually through cutting, drilling, grinding. It involves using various types of machines, such as lathes, mills, drills, to create precise and intricate components or parts from raw material. Machining is commonly used in industries that require high precision and tight tolerance. Metal fabrication, on the other hand, is a broader term that encompasses various processes involved in creating metal structure and components. Unlike machining, metal fabrication involves manipulating and assembling metal pieces to achieve a particular shape or structure. So the question then is machining and metal fabrication toxic or noisy, or does it disturb the environment in any way? And the answer is yes. Both machining and metal fabrication processes can be noisy and potentially toxic due to the types of machinery and materials used. Machining and fabrication often involves loud machineries like grinders, cutting saws, hammering, leading to noise levels that can be harmful. Toxicity. These processes can produce airborne contaminants like dust, fumes, and mist from both the materials being worked on and the cutting fluids used. These contaminants can cause respiratory illnesses, skin irritation, and more serious health problems depending on the materials involved. Now, there's a law in Ontario. It's called Ontario Industrialization Criteria, which is a guide that's used by land use planners to determine the appropriate distances between industrial areas and sensitive land uses, which is defined as people's homes. The proposed use of machining and metal fabrication falls into the Class 3 industrial in the following respects. It produces noise, dust, and odor. It involves outside storage of raw material and finished materials. There's continuous movement of product and employees in a 4,300 square foot industrial facility, and it involves metal manufacturing. Now, the SDG official plan specifically states at section 433 in rural settlement areas, which is what we are in Martintown, that Class 3 industrial uses and waste management systems will not be permitted in rural settlement areas. But even if you thought that the proposed use is not a Class 3 operation and maybe just a Class 1 or a Class 2 operation, it still does not meet the criteria for a zoning bylaw amendment. The same official plan states that zoning bylaw amendments must take into consideration whether the new land use would not be more appropriately located elsewhere, such as the industrial park of Cornwall. You have to take into consideration the volume of pattern of traffic flows. That particular corner of Highway 18 and Chapel Road is a very odd configuration, and there's been many accidents at that corner, mainly because of the barn that's located there that blocks visual traffic from east to west on the 18, and in addition because of the way Highway 18 bends. You also have to take into consideration the privacy of adjacent landowners and the impact of the noise, dust, and traffic. And certainly within that corner, McQuaig's Corner, there's at least a couple $1 million of real estate there, owned by 5, 6 different people. And when you consider an industrial operation in the middle of the quiet setting of these $1 million properties, it's just illogical. You have to also consider the impact of the neighboring agricultural use. Right across the street from this proposed industrial operation is a farm. And they have horses, they have chickens, they have all kinds of farming animals. Now, in no logical way can machining and metal manufacturing be considered consistent with the use of the area as it is today. And there's no way that that meets any of the criteria of 346 of the official plan. And this, and the fact that there's a mistrust in how the land will be used and operated, given the history of illegal dumping, constitutes my objection. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor McDonnell.
Just a question through you, Mr. Mayor, for Ms. Haley. There was made mention in the comment that this is a rural settlement area, or I believe that would stop at the boundaries of the old Body fruit berry farm. Am I under the wrong impression there? Or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the village of Martintown is located in a rural settlement area. This area is considered to be designated a rural district, so it's outside of that settlement area of Martintown.
All right, would there be other comments from the members of public? Oh, yes, please do proceed. And again, the gray button, do speak into it because this, it will be on YouTube after if you're so inclined to watch us back. And identify your name and address. So gray button just in front. There you go.
Good evening, Council. I haven't met Joanne before, but she's a tough act to follow, so. My name is Steve Agnew. I'm a resident of 19118 County Road 18, which is the property directly south of the proposed building. Going in. Anyways, I would just like to make it official verbal appeal to the proposal of the zoning of the 2.5 acres of the south side of Lot 38 to accommodate a metal fabrication business to our rural neighborhood. My opposition is based on the following reasons: financial, safety concerns, and environmental issues. On the financial side, our home is a major part of our investment towards the retirement and savings. By allowing such a fabrication business in a rural setting will inevitably reduce the value to our property, to our home, and to the surrounding neighborhood, thus reducing our investments and potential retirement savings. Safety concerns, I feel a little more concerned or expressed concern with. If you're familiar with the road, or I don't know how to speak to you regarding County Road 18, but as Yvonne suggested, it is a treacherous road at best. The travel up and down that area, east to west, there is not a stop sign from, I'll say, Highway 34 to St. Andrews, 138. So the traffic going through there is governed by basically the speed limit. I think in that section of our road, the speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour, and we have numerous heavy transports going through there at over 90. I feel introducing that type of a business that's going to have their own transports coming in and out is very dangerous. Basically for the same reasons that Yvonne mentioned. We have obstructions. The road is slightly curved. There's an obstruction of an existing building, housing. It is my fear, I guess if I could say, that any vehicles coming in and out of that property are endangering the transport of the vehicles up and down that street, and thus the vehicles coming in and out of the property also. Sorry about that. Financially. Third would just be my environmental concerns. By allowing an industrial building in a rural area will undoubtedly create noise, pollution, and other things that are associated with that type of business. I would just like to say in closing, I'm not against the family-run business of the Glengarry Millwrights having to move or expand from their current position. I just believe that there is a better situated industrial zoning area that would be more feasible to prosper in their type of business. So I would like to thank you for your time, and hope everyone has a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments? Okay, are there any further comments from members of the public? I believe the microphone's already on, so you just have to, your name and civic address again.
I live right on the corner at 19119 County Road 18, right on the corner of Chapel and County Road 18. This will be visible from our backyard. It won't be visible from the front. My question that I have is basically, if they already have this somewhere else, why are they moving it to our residential area? Also, the traffic, yes, is definitely a concern. We had a bad accident during the winter. There were 2 cars on fire on my corner. A couple of years ago, there was a car T-boned on our corner, on the pole on our corner. So traffic is a big concern for me. The amount of trucks and traffic that's going to be going through this intersection, which is already a bad intersection. But basically, I was just kind of curious, if they have one already, why are they building in a rural setting where it's very peaceful and very quiet?
Can I just get your name too for the record? I don't know if I. Would I just be able to get your name? You identified your address, just for the public record?
Want my name?
Yes, please. Just
Laura Lee Finley.
perfect. Thank you very much.
I can spell it if you want, because it's,
Okay, so I suppose if Mr. McDonald would like to answer that question, you're more than welcome to. So the question was why the interest in that a property to build this as opposed to stay in your current location, I think.
We currently operate out of just a small shed right now, so it's just a little bit of an upgrade for us. And it's on the property, so it kind of works for us.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments from members of the public? Oh, yes, please do proceed. The microphone's off, so it's just a gray button. And again, your name and address.
Hello, good evening. Kate Miller, 4981 Chapel Road. I didn't actually answer, I didn't hear the answer. Do you,
If I can summarize quickly, they're currently operating in a smaller shed, and this would be an upgrade for their business, probably more fitting for the operations, I'm going to say.
thank you. I have a few questions. Where does the metal get stored? What are the hours of operation? And what is the height of the building? That's all for me. Thanks.
Okay. Can that be answered? Go ahead, Mr. McDonald or Mrs. Haley.
I believe the height was 21 feet and maybe 3 inches, something like that. Hours of storage, everything's inside. Yeah. I don't really plan on having anything outside. And the hours of operation are typically 7 to 3:30. But, I mean, some weeks we don't really have shop work. We're on the road most of the time, so it's kind of a home base just to operate out of.
Okay. So did everybody hear that in the audience? Just I know that sometimes, so it was 7:30 to 3 inside the building and 21 feet 3 inches, if I recall. Okay. Are there any further questions from members of the public or comments? Oh, yes, please. You can. We'll have to do it from the podium, but there's just somebody coming up if you don't. We'll go to you and then back to you. Again, your name and civic number.
My name is Michelle Laframboise. I live at 4988 Chapel Road in Martintown. I just have a couple questions. We are on a well, so I just want to know what would be put in place to ensure that there'd be no contamination with the water.
I'm not really sure if that would even be an issue. Like, everybody's on a well around there. I mean, we're not dumping chemicals or anything like that on the ground, so I don't see where
Okay.
that would come into play.
Okay. And I think that's it, right?
Okay. I believe there's somebody back there that would like to. Do we have to restate name and address, or is this okay? Okay, you do not need to restate your name and address. And welcome back.
Joanne.
Turned it off, sorry. Red
is
light
on,
means go.
okay.
It's opposite to all our training on the road.
I guess I mean, I should have said it earlier, but, you know, I work for a general contractor. I've spent my whole life in construction, and the company that I work for also has a millwright and steel fabrication shop. We're situated in Montreal, so I'm very familiar with the goings-ons of a steel fabrication shop. So in an industrial setting, it works fine, and I feel in a rural setting, it doesn't. That's the first time I sort of saw plans for that drawing. I noticed, well, it really is just a shed. You don't seem to have any accommodations for washrooms, although you'll have employees there, I assume. I don't know if there's an office or well set up or anything. It seems to be just presenting itself as just a storage shed, but it really is a manufacturing facility. So I'm wondering what we're not seeing here. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Haley or Mr. McDonald?
Thank you for the questions, sir. And the reason why we don't have a lot of detailed drawings at this stage is because it's not required. So the information that we've included in the presentation is what has been provided to us. If a zoning bylaw amendment is approved, then the individual would then spend more dollars in completing their detailed design of the facility. And then if it's not approved, then they would have a choice not to move forward with that. So we don't expect people to do full sets of drawings in advance. I'll now turn it over to Mr. McDonald so he can maybe speak to the specificities of the interior or washrooms or things like that.
So yes, there is washroom and some parking in front. It has to confine with a barrier-free access. For the structure itself, yeah, it's just kind of a big square box. It'll have insulated metal panels on the walls and on the roof. And other than that, that's a garage door on the front and back on the west end.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions from the audience? Oh, yes, go ahead, please. Again, name and civic number. It's already on, so you can go ahead.
Kate Miller, 4981 Chapel Road. This is probably addressed with the picture, but the only entrance would be on the 18? Is that right? Okay, thank you.
So those for online, the answer was yes by head nods. Yeah, so it's on 18. Okay, any further questions? Oh, Councillor Jaworski?
Thanks through you, Mayor McDonald. This is a question for Ms. Haley. In terms of, I assume the counties would control where the entrance goes. Is the entrance is there now? Is that going to remain? Do we know at this stage if that would remain the entrance? Because I gather that it's at the far west side, if we're talking about the County Road 18 frontage.
Thank you for that question through you, Mr. Mayor. When dealing with the applicant, we requested that he applies for a county road entrance permit. Even though there's an entrance there, we can't automatically assume that it's an approved entrance, nor we can't assume if it's an entrance that is designed or constructed properly to accommodate the proposed development. I do know that the application has been made, and the United Counties are in the midst of processing it, so I can't tell you exactly if they're going to approve this exact location, but we do know that because it's further west from the corner that this is the better location as opposed to making the entrance more towards Chapel Road.
Thank you.
All right. Going once. Are there any more questions? Going twice. All right, so this public zoning bylaw 0325, we have received the input from the public as they wish to present today. If some people say we're heavily introverted, can they send you a letter still? That deadline still exists?
Definitely, Mr. Mayor. We will continue to accept comments. And if we're able to write a staff report for the next meeting, my report would be due on Tuesday of next week. So comments would be welcome until then. But if comments happen to continue to come in beyond that date, that is something that I would speak to at the upcoming council meeting.
Okay, thank you. So with that, as it's a public meeting, no decision has been rendered. We will wait for a staff report to come back at potentially our next meeting or meeting thereafter. And then we'll move on to our second zoning bylaw. Everybody who was here for the first one you're more than welcome to stay, but most people decide to leave. So if you do wish to exit, you feel free to. The second one is 6B, zoning bylaw 0425. Doncaster? Okay, Mrs. Haley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we're moving on to our second public meeting this evening, and this one's known as the Don Coast Zoning Bylaw Amendment. So this property is located at part of Lot 97, Registered Plan 107, being Part 1 of Reference Plan 14R 5461, in the geographic township of Charlottenburg, now in South Glengarry. This is a map of the subject property, or where the subject property is located. This is the village of Martintown. You can see the yellow outlines the rural settlement area of Martintown, And they fall just basically kind of south east of the village. The road, McGilvery Road angles in that location. And the area that's blacked out is the entire property that we're dealing with this evening. The purpose of this amendment is to rezone the subject property from natural hazard to a natural hazard exception 1 zone that would permit a recreational vehicle which will be used as a seasonal dwelling on a vacant lot. If it's approved, all other applicable provisions of our zoning bylaw 3809 as amended will continue to apply. So recreational vehicle and accessory structures were placed on the subject property in contradiction to the zoning bylaw amendment. This is something that the municipality became aware of through a complaint process. And so we started working with the property owners to determine if they had options on what they could do with the property. So this is why they're seeking permission to allow the recreational vehicle to remain on the lot and to be used as a seasonal dwelling. And I'm going to show you a variety of photos that were taken. They were taken approximately 20 days ago when the sign was installed. So you're going to see that this is the property. You can see that the camping trailer is placed in the back of the property here. Again, the property's on an angle, so it's hard to tell that on these photos. So if in this image, this would be the Raisin River. So their camping trailer is aligned with the river, so they'd have nice water views, I'm assuming. And then this is a little bit more of an up-close picture to show you where they're located in proximity to the river, and then they have a gazebo. And they mow lots of grass. So the application, you probably heard me say this in the previous meeting, but when we receive a zoning amendment application, we're obligated to notify the public 120 meters around the property, as well as place an ad in the local newspaper and circulate applicable agencies. In this particular case, we needed to circulate to the Raisin Region Conservation Authority. And the reason for that is because the subject property is zoned natural hazard. And so a hazard basically means that this area is subject to flooding, and we do know that this area does flood, and that's really common for some portions along the Raisin River. So the Raisin Region Conservation Authority has provided several comments, which I'll read to you. So the application is for a development in a natural hazard area. The natural hazard area has been identified through recent technical studies supported by the state-of-the-art LiDAR. Council, you may recall we were successful in receiving federal government funding to update our floodplain mapping in South Glengarry along the St. Lawrence and the Raisin River. So LiDAR is a tool that's used that's a light detection and ranging. It's remote sensing method to examine the elevations of the land. And so with this LiDAR, we have much more up-to-date information now that would tell us what elevation the land is at, and then the Conservation Authority can use that information to determine if it's subject to flooding, if it's above the floodplain or below the floodplain. So you'll see in comment number 3 here, the flood and inundation depth on the property can be as much as 1.4 meters for the regulatory flood, and as much as 0.9 meters for the 1 and 2 year flood event. So the regulatory flood is the 1 in 100 year event. We always plan and map for 1 in 100 year storms. However, there's some areas that could be affected in every rain event, or in 1 in 20 years, 1 in 50 years, etc. So this average flood depths across the property are 0.8 meters and 0.4 meters for the regulatory and 1 and 2 year events respectively. I know this image is a little hard to read, but I'm going to do my best to explain it to you. I have to also look at this a little more closely. So this image is showing the depths of the property based on the 1 in 2 year flood event. This is where the camping trailer is located approximately, right in here, sorry?
A little bit over.
A little bit?
Yeah, between
Okay,
there.
thank you. Right in here along the Raisin River. So you'll see that in this area, it starts off, it's higher here. In a 1 and 2 year rain event, it would be 0 inches. Here it could potentially be covered by 8 inches of water, and then it progresses as you go closer. So 12 inches, 20 inches, 20 inches. The deepest part here would be, well, there's 2 deep parts here. One is 28 inches, is 1 in 35 inches, but this is, much further away from where their trailer is placed. And then we also have information regarding the a regulatory flood event. And again, I'm not going to go through like every portion, but in here it gets into, 47 inches, 55 inches, so it can definitely flood more in these areas. Their comment number 4 is, a dwelling in a natural hazard area would pose an unacceptable risk to public health and safety. You'll notice that the Conservation Authority is using the word dwelling because when people are habiting a camping trailer, I realize that's not maybe a permanent year-round dwelling, but it is a form of a dwelling. And then a dwelling in a natural hazard area would pose as an unacceptable risk of property damage. According to the RSCA, their opinion is that the application is contrary to the direction of the provincial planning statement. It's also contrary to policies located in the United Counties of SD&G official plan and contrary to the Conservation Authority Act that they're subject to follow. During the public process, we have received a comment in support of the proposed amendment. It was jointly submitted by 2 nearby property owners expressing their support. The letters notes that significant improvements have been made to the property, including the removal of noxious weeds, the planting of numerous trees in alignment with the RSCA Stewardship Program goals. The subject property is currently designated agricultural resource and is located within a floodplain constraint in the county official plan. And in our opinion, the proposed amendment does not conform to the official plan or the provincial planning statement simply because this is a hazard area. This zoning amendment will be considered and decided upon by council in the future, and a staff report with a recommendation will be brought to council for a decision. And again, our intention is generally to bring it in the upcoming meetings. At this time, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to turn it over to the applicants, Mr. and Mrs. Dontas, for them to add additional information that I may have missed, or other items you may wish to include.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. We recognize and sincerely appreciate the roles of both South Glengarry Township and the Raisin River Conservation Authority in protecting public safety and environmental integrity. We fully agree that floodplains are sensitive areas that require careful oversight and responsible stewardship, and I believe our efforts since purchasing the property demonstrate our commitment to the same. It's important to note that our proposal is not for a permanent dwelling or structural development. We are requesting a site-specific zoning amendment to allow for a non-permanent seasonal RV that remains fully mobile with no connections to water or sewage, is located within walking distance of our home, is occupied only sporadically, and could be moved or removed during high-risk flood periods if it was required. And it involves no grading, excavation, or disturbance of natural features. We understand, and I grew up in Martintown, I'm more than aware that that road floods, that McGilvery Road is prone to seasonal spring flooding. For that reason, the RV was placed with this known condition in mind. We were not aware that we were not allowed to have an RV on a vacant lot. Who knew? We found out. We have taken steps to mitigate any potential risks. Should a particularly bad flood year occur, the RV can be relocated with minimal effort. And importantly, even in the unlikely event of your regulatory event, water damage to the RV, there is no threat to public safety or municipal infrastructure. It would not impede water flow. We are also entirely willing to comply with any conditions or monitoring requirements that the township or the RRCA may recommend. This proposal is not about future development, but about the low-impact, responsible use of private land, a use that respects the natural landscape, supports the principles of conservation, and aligns with provincial policies that do allow for removable, low-risk uses in hazardous areas. We respectfully ask for your consideration and support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from our members of council present? Are there any comments from members of the audience? Okay. So then we have received the comments at present. Joanne will come back, or Mrs. Haley will come back with a future report, as stated at the start of the note. For those watching online, if you do watch online, ideally by next Tuesday, have those remarks to Mrs. Haley, and then we'll receive a staff report. And I would like to say on the whole, on the balance, I do enjoy, because we had a little conversation on clear garbage bags last meeting, and we were talking about how sometimes people can get animated through both presentations. I think everybody presented fairly and kindly, and again, it's just nice to see South Glengarry, we're neighborly, and we may disagree on certain things, but we do it very kindly, and you spoke very well, as did everybody previous to you, and kindly too. So thank you for just being good people, everyone in the audience and who's been at the podium. Okay, so we'll move on from that particular spot. If anybody wants to stay that was here for that presentation, they're more than welcome to. As we move into presentations and delegations, it's Cairn Island Site Interpretation Project, Avans Limited. Ms. Harbers will introduce the presentators.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Kelsey and Taylor from Avans are here this evening to present on the Cairn Interpretation Site Project. This is something that the township has been working on with Parks Canada and the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne. We have some representatives from Parks Canada here tonight as well in the audience, so thank you for joining us. The goal of this project was to establish an interpretation site of Cairn Island and identify what the options could be through consultation with community and stakeholders. Parks Canada made a financial commitment to this project in 2016. At the time, the intention was for the project to include the consultation and findings portion and the establishment of the interpretation. Now that we're about 9 years later, the funding does not capture the entirety of the original project, and at this point, the financial commitment from Parks Canada has covered the consultation and reporting portion, which is what Avans will be presenting about this evening. The project team, being South Glengarry, Akwesasne, and Parks Canada, will continue to work together to establish the next steps of the project, including the interpretation, and develop a funding plan with the interested parties once we have received feedback from both councils, and so there will be more to come on this. However, for now, we are excited to be at this point in the project. We received some good feedback this past winter and spring regarding an interpretation site through consultation, so I'll pass it over to Avans to present the findings and options. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry Lynn. Good evening, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Kelsey Catherine Young. For those of you who don't know me, I think there's maybe one of you. And this is my colleague Taylor Day, and we're consultants with a firm called Avans Limited that was contracted by the project team to conduct a series of community engagements and interpretation of the deliverable or the Cairn Island interpretation site kind of resources and recommendations. And so what Taylor and I will do this evening is kind of walk you through the project, the history of it briefly, and then present the number of recommendations that we've put together based on the joint community engagements. There we go.
Hello everyone, as Kelsey was saying, the purpose of tonight will provide a project overview and an update to you all on the work completed. We'll present the draft recommendations identified by community members during the public consultations within South Glengarry and Akwesasne, and then we will receive your feedback and input regarding the project and recommendations. So just as a small project overview, this was a public consultation to inform the mainland interpretive element for Chigajinaguahele or Cairn Island. This is a partnership between MCA, Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, Township of South Glengarry, and Parks Canada. That is just the CLSS map screenshot of the island, and the little orange in it, it represents it being reserved land. So just for some historical context, pre-settlement era, First Nations of the area utilized the island as a resting area, gathering spot, and a hunting ground. In 1840 to 1842, soldiers of the Glengarry Militia constructed the cairn to commemorate Sir John Colborne. In 1922, the island was expropriated from the Mohawks of Akwesasne. In 1922, or from 1922 to 1997, the island was used by the local South Glengarry community as a recreational spot. In 1997, softly, public access to the island was closed when significant artifacts were recovered during a Parks Canada project. And shortly after that, the additions to reserve process started from MCA, and in 2024, the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne finalized the additions to reserve process for the island itself. So throughout the public consultation of this project, we had 2 consultation sessions with the Township of South Glengarry. One was online, one was in person, in here actually. And for Akwesasne, we had 3 consultation sessions. There, we happened to have 2 in person, 1 online, and there were 9 total participants for that. The critical considerations to come out of these consultation sessions were access to the island, the distinct and shared community histories for the island itself, and then the accessibility of the interpretive element.
And just before I launch into the recommendations piece, I will also note that there was access to the public for inquiry questions, comments to our team from the period of early February till mid-April. And we did receive a number of pieces of feedback, ideas, and as well as additional historical documentation that we didn't at the time have access to. So some rich dialogue from both communities that way. And so the real crux of the project was to be able to provide the project team with site interpretation recommendations. And what we've decided to do is group these in types of recommendations. So we have physical, virtual, and educational as the kind of categories. So I'll walk through these short and sweet. Really, the Glengarry Cairn, the installation is meant to be kind of a physical, preserved visual with symbolic significance to the community. People have this tangible, interactive experience of history themselves using the island, climbing the cairn, these types of things. So we really wanted to do justice to the community members who wanted to be able to reflect on that recreational space and use of the cairn. And so recommendation for an off-site engagement with the, maybe a replica or something similar cairn-like in a park or other setting would be a potential recommendation. Included in that physical recommendation would be informational plaques, things that are accessible and permanent educational resources that could be used in several sites, not just here in South Glengarry, but also in Akwesasne, so that they could be, public could learn about the land itself. We can create cross-cultural, historical, and cultural content that could be accessed through the plaque itself, but also perhaps with a virtual element, kind of hybrid piece. Some other pieces that came out of the recommendations from the community members is being able to incorporate pieces that weave the 2 communities together from both sets of engagements. Really being able to show the symbolization of both these communities was important. Recommendations around the kind of Haudenosaunee wampum belt to share their history, and the Scottish thistle, similar to some current artwork and representation that are in local historical sites. So they really wanted to be able to kind of symbolize that mutual respect and that community connection. It's very important to, that came up quite a lot in the recommendations. On the digital recommendation side, because access to the island is restricted and will continue to be restricted, being able to create a recreated, respectful but immersive access to that space is an option for a digital resource. Recommendations around drone footage or on-site video, a story, the narrative of the history of the space and the island was recommended as well. Ideas came from that. We used some drone footage, thanks to Dave Robertson, for that, of the island itself as part of our community engagements, and the public really responded quite well to being able to see that space and talk about their memories and that type of thing. That could be hosted on a website. It could be also accessed through those physical plaques that we mentioned earlier through QR codes. Another piece of recommendation is that a lot of the lived stories and histories from the Cairn Island experiences locally are going to be a finite resource. Those narratives, the stories that people are telling, aren't going to be here forever. Obviously, our community is aging, and individuals being able to share their oral histories from Akwesasne of that space as well kind of lent to the natural recommendation to have some shared oral history, some narratives and stories around that space. That can be very powerful educationally. It helps people, celebrate and commemorate community members who have those experiences, but also it then gets captured for future generations. All of these kind of digital recommendations could be living in a standalone platform or on the existing website where our current resources and the engagements information has been. This allows for perhaps some interactive tools. We could have language supports and learning the different terms for both communities, and it makes it so it's accessible to anybody. And the final recommendation sets were focused on educational resources. A couple of pieces that came up were the educational resources that currently exist that Parks Canada supported on the St. Lawrence River that are used in Akwesasne for cultural and educational camps for youth. They love them, and it's part of the recommendation was to be able to commemorate the ecological importance, both currently and historically, of this space and the islands along the St. Lawrence. There could be history around the construction of the cairn and the militia and the commemoration. There could be current ecological lessons, all these different resources that could be used both in Akwesasne, in spaces in South Glengarry, schools, libraries, that kind of thing. One piece of important recommendations is the acknowledgement of Cairn Island as an ecological important space. It is currently serving as a butterfly reserve. The regrowth on the island has made it a significant space for monarch butterflies. And again, as I was saying, kind of communicating the island's historic and modern ecological importance kind of connects both communities and the use of the land and the island itself. And finally, the concept of a traveling exhibit to kind of capture some of these resources so that they can visit both communities and be seen in different spaces throughout SDG. We do have currently different types of exhibits in SDG, such as at the libraries, at the OPG, the Power Dam. The Traveling College for in Akwesasne also does traveling interpretation pieces as well, so it could lend itself very quickly to those types of programming that already exist in community. So the next steps for the project on our side is to be able to integrate any final feedback or questions that both councils have. We'll be submitting our report of those recommendations to the project team, and they'll continue to have that collaboration between the three of them with South Glengarry, Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, and Parks Canada to establish what the next steps for these interpretation options will be. And that's it from us.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from council as to our thoughts on the presentation or thoughts on the Cairn project? Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. When do you want our comments in?
If there are further comments from the report itself, I think we established, Sherilyn, do you want to give us that exact date? Sorry.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe Avon's is doing a presentation in Akwesasne on June 23rd. So once feedback is received from them, then we will be incorporating it into the report. So by June 24th would probably make the most sense. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. There's lots of great info in there, and I remember as a young boy with my grandparents going over to the island, and I mean, it was such a great spot to be able to climb to the top was pretty cool. And of course, that was pre-1997, so before it closed. I really enjoy and appreciate all the work you put into it. The informational plaques, I'm just kind of thinking out loud. I could definitely see maybe one at the wharf. With, of course, information from all parties involved. And, of course, we need to make sure it's approved by us and Akwesasne Council. but I could definitely see those along the township in certain areas. Educational piece is very important, so I can definitely see these resources being used in our local schools in SDNG, as well as Akwesasne and the whole history behind it, and how this area is such a critical and important part of the beginning of Canada, really. Yeah, there's lots of great work in here, and I mean, it would be great, the virtual tour, we've seen that in a lot of different areas as well. Teachers can go on virtual tours to show their classrooms, kind of the island, what it looks like, and maybe actually kind of virtually walking up the steps, going to the top, which would be pretty cool. And the views from there would be pretty exciting for the students, I'm sure. So, yeah, that's just some comments I had really quickly. I mean, it would be kind of neat if it did open at one point down in the future, so local residents could go on at one point, but I guess that's a discussion to have later. But thank you.
Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you. Through Mayor McDonald, thanks very much, Ms. Young, Ms. Day, for presenting this. And like I mentioned, when I went to the consultation that was held here, I was very grateful that folks such as yourselves who have like local ties to both communities were participating and were leading this, because I thought you did it in a very thoughtful and sensitive way. And I appreciate the thoroughness of your report. My question, I think, is probably more to staff. I mean, there's lots of excellent recommendations in here, but I'm assuming we can't do them all. So I'm wondering, like, if is staff looking for us to at this point express like preferred options, or to kind of comment on priority, that sort of thing? And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm trying to understand sort of the next steps in terms of how we would move forward on, potentially some of these recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. So just for comments on the report, if you had preferred options, we can certainly take those into consideration. And for next steps on the project, we're still working with the project team to kind of determine how we would move forward, what options. We're receiving feedback on from both councils on what they would like to see moving forward. And as the project team, we'll discuss those next steps on maybe there's the education piece that might not, require as much funding, or not like a construction project, so maybe something that we could implement sooner than later. So those are things that we will be discussing as a project team, kind of after receiving feedback from councils. And then we will be able to come back to council whenever we are looking at more funding for the interpretation site implementation.
Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you both for your presentation this evening. There are lots of good recommendations in there, and I know over the years council has had, as this process started, we've had numerous one-on-ones and different conversations as well with our counterparts in Akwesasne as to where would be good locations from Councillor Bushy's recommendation at the wharf. We have waterfront lands in Glenmalter, both on the island as well, at the arenas. There's a lot of options, I think, and lots of good suggestions coming out of this as well for virtual opportunities. And I think based on funding and based on budgetary requirements, I can't see why we wouldn't move forward with, I hope, a number of different options. So look forward to seeing this continue on in the process. Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess from my side, I think it was Mr. Monroe had a great expression, and I forget it exactly, so I don't want to misquote him, but he said it was important to a number of people for a number of different reasons, and he was happy to see, I think, what was presented that night. So that's a paraphrasing, because he said it so sterlingly well, but I echo his, like the report. If the people from South Lancaster are happy with the situation, because they're the ones who probably enjoyed it the most from Township of South Glengarry side, then I'm also satisfied with that too. Okay, just before leaving this, I would also like to highlight that Parks Canada National Recognition Team has nominated the Return of the Sacred Site Cairn Island to Mohawks of Akwesasne Stewardship Project Team, which includes both Chief Robertson and Sherry Lynn Harbors for the 2025 CEO Award of Excellence in the commemorate category, as well as the two other members who are here tonight. So that little round of applause for that, because that's quite the accomplishment. All right, so then no other questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. We'll move to action requests. First action request is 8A, Regional Incentive Program, Fraser Creek Pizza Farm. Mrs. Treverton. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-58 be received and that the Corporation of the Township of South Glengarry enter into a Regional Incentive Program financial agreement with Fraser Creek Pizza Farm located at 19569 County Road 2, Somerstown, and that the United Counties of the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry, and furthermore, that the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to sign all relevant documents. Mrs. Treverton.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. With Council's permission, I'd like to present the 3 regional incentive program applications together because they all follow the same process, if that's okay.
That's fine by me, and I'll just read the resolutions, the number 2 and 3 afterwards.
Okay. The Regional Incentives Program, or what we often just frequently call it the RIP program, is administered by the counties, and it mirrors our community improvement plan in most ways, except for that it addresses regional economic development goals and outcomes as opposed to ones at the municipal level. The program has a good-sized budget of $250,000 this year, for example, but when you consider that project funding, each project is eligible for up to $50,000, that money doesn't spread as far as you might think when you're dividing it among 6 municipalities. For this reason, I began working with South Glengarry businesses well out in advance. Sometimes we start talking about a year in advance, and then months before the program application window opens, I start working with them more diligently, spending more time with them. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure, that they're eligible and they fit the program criteria, but I go over all the requirements that have to come with the application project and make sure they understand how important it is that the wording in their application and the supporting documentation is very clearly aligned with the goals of the Regional Incentives Program because it's such a competitive process. Also, once I receive the applications myself, I have to prepare a municipal summary, and the purpose of that is to verify that they have tax and bylaw compliance for each project that's applying, and to indicate the reasons why I support the project for funding. And the last final step of it is going before the RIP Advisory Committee and basically answering questions that the committee may have. Sometimes there's details that I may know that they ask and they're just not covered under in the application package. So I'll get asked some, a few questions, and it's just my role to try to persuade them that the project is meeting the criteria of at least. I try to encourage them to go for 2 of the goals of the 3. So the staff reports you see before you is requesting council's authorization to enter into formal funding agreements with the counties. That would be between the SDG counties, the township, and each funding application as required by the program guidelines. SDG counties does provide 100% of the funding, but the township is responsible for dispersing the grant once the project is completed, confirmed completed by the county staff. These agreements formalize the financial relationship to ensure proper administration of the grants. So the agreements are for Fraser Creek Pizza Farm that were awarded $8,518.71. The Butterfly Farm, which was awarded $40,000, and Utopia Nature Spa, which was awarded $20,000.
Are you looking for comments from council or
If there are any questions or comments from council?
Okay, any comments from council on this? Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you very much. I'm glad to see some local businesses applying and winning the grant. It's good to see, and it's going to be good for our community.
And I understand from the former economic development officer that a lot of the heavy lifting goes on locally for these grants. So I'd like to thank you as much as the county might take has the money and the esteem. The work was done, I think, locally. So thank you for getting some businesses, as Deputy Mayor Lang said, some funding. Any further comments? All right. So I've read the first resolution for Fraser Creek. So I'll call a vote on that, and then I'll go through the subsequent two. I'm not going to read this one again. So all those in favor of the motion is carried. Or sorry, as read, carried. Thank you. The second resolution, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-59 be received and that the Corporation of the Township of South Glengarry enter into a regional incentive program financial agreement with the Butterfly Barn located on 20189 Beaupre Road, Green Valley, and the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry, and furthermore that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all relevant documents. All those in favor? Carried. And our last one, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-60 be received and that the Corporation of the Township of South Glengarry enter into a regional incentive program financial agreement with Utopia Nature Spa located at 18323 Tyotown Road, South Glengarry, and the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, Glengarry, and furthermore that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all relevant documents. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Ms. Treverton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Moving on to 8D, fee waiver request. Mrs. Harbers, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-61 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry decline the request received by the Martintown Masonic Lodge to waive the $75 fee for the rental of the Martintown Community Center on November 16th, 2025, and that administration continues to apply the applicable rates. Mrs. Harbers.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a fee waiver request for the Masonic Lodge for their annual event fundraiser that they hold at the Martintown Community Center. You'll see in the report that I did mention, through the township's fees bylaw that was established last fall, that we incorporated nonprofit fees for events such as this. So administration is recommending that we continue with the fees in our fees bylaw at the reduced rate for nonprofits and these fundraising events. However, it is council's decision, so I will leave it to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the report, Ms. Harbers. I will maybe make. I would be okay with accepting the fee waiver, just on the basis that local initiatives or local groups such as the Masonic Lodge or Glengarry Mental Health Initiative, a lot of those organizations, when they do once a year fundraiser and they do use our facilities, we often get these requests, and it is often, it's recommended that we don't pass them, but we often do grant the fee waiver just based on the money they're raising is not to support their operations. It goes to, in this case, the grants that they give out to the local high school students and to a lot of and help with different operations, our local hospitals, and help with the maintenance in our local cemeteries and things such as that. And same with Glengarry Mental Health, we've done in the past when they have their soccer tournament here and they use the hall. So I would be fine if it's the will of council to go against the recommendation. At the same time, we have a policy that says we're not supposed to do that, and we just reviewed that policy, and it's probably something that one of the members of council should have got at the time. So it's the only reason I'm making it is for the argument is for continuity with other events we've done in the past. And
Okay. Counselor Jaworski?
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Ms. Service, for bringing this here. I totally understand why staff would like to follow the fee bylaw, and I would say, generally speaking, we definitely should. But I mean, I think in this case, if it truly is a one-off, as opposed to something that, you know, they're going to start wanting to do every month, I don't have a, I think, you know, I'll echo what Councillor McDonnell said, that on a one-off, I don't have an issue with waiving it.
So for this one, just procedurally, if we defeat it, would that mean that we allow the, because I say that we waive the fee, it's being to decline the request, so we don't want to carry that, we want to defeat that. By defeating it, would that then allow us to waive it, or would we need another motion? Okay, so I'll call the vote right now then. All those in favor? So right now, it's a motion, sorry, we have to defeat this first, if we want to, and then the motion, there will be a second motion unless there's further conversation required. I didn't see any hands up. Okay, so this is, right now, if we carry this, we're declining the request, so by defeating it, we're preparing for the motion, if we want that. So all those in favor? All those opposed? Defeated. Now we have another motion. And it will be moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-61 be received, and that Council of the Township of South Glengarry accept the request received by the Martintown Masonic Lodge to waive the fee $75 for the rental of the Martintown Community Center on November 16th, 2025. I think the conversation has been had. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. I believe you're still here for the canteen service, RFP. So moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-62 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry award RFP 2025-09 for canteen services at the Charland Recreation Center to Snack Shack Canteen as per their submission of $250 per month plus HST, and furthermore that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all relevant documents. Mrs. Harbers.
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. This is to award the contract to the Snack Shack Canteen service that's been here for the last 2 seasons, 2 ice seasons. We had the RFP out, and they were the only submission again. This would be, the proposed fee that they provided is the same as last year from the last ice season. And it, in their submission, they included that they will start October 17th, which I believe is because they also run food trucks around at community events, so they would be available to start mid-October. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Ms. Harbers, for this. My question is, in terms of the operating hours, is there any requirement that they be open? And I'm just, or if there's been any change to the hours versus previous contracts. Thanks.
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. These are the hours that the contractor had submitted in their proposal that they were going to be providing. However, if there's a change in schedule, or maybe it's just a practice or a group that isn't bringing in a lot of people, then they may opt to not come in. It hasn't been an overly competitive market for canteen services, so although we do prefer and remind them of, you know, larger events that it should be open, it hasn't really been a requirement if they don't have staff available for certain times.
Thank you for that.
Any further comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Moving to 8F, award RFP 2025-08 supply and delivery of a wheeled excavator Ms. McDonald, moved by Counselor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-63 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry award procurement 2025-08 for the 60-month lease of a wheeled excavator to Brandt Tractor Limited in accordance with their submission dated May 9th, 2025, and furthermore, that the General Manager of Infrastructure Services and Treasurer be authorized to sign all relevant documents. Ms. McDonald and Mr. Levac. Oh, look up. Mr. McIntosh and Mr. Levac.
That's okay. Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So Infrastructure Services rents a variety of excavators through the year for different activities such as ditching, brushing, and culvert replacements. Those services cost approximately $50,000 in 2024. On March 24th, we had a committee of the whole here to talk about fleet, and in that presentation, administration proposed the 60-month lease of a wheeled excavator to offset those rental costs. Council at that time expressed interest in exploring a purchase option as well. So with that, we went out for procurement of a wheeled excavator with two options, one for a 60-month lease and one for a purchase. With that time, we came back with, received 4 bids for a wheeled excavator. Brandt Tractor, East Rock Equipment, Norris Construction, and J.R. Brisson. Through that, myself and Mr. Levac and Ms. McDonald all reviewed the submissions and came back with the most technically sound and machine meeting our needs, being the Brandt Tractor submission of the John Deere 190 GW for a lease of $355,680 or a purchase price of $495,449. This would include all the attachments that would go with it, a mulching head for brushing and continuing our right-of-way reclamation project, which has been successful, and we'd like to continue with this project. Brandt Tractor, being the biggest machine and having the most reach, was kind of our choice. It allows us to complete all the work that we need to in our activities through changing culverts, brushing, being able to reach the far ends of the right-of-way, and culverts being able to reach to a depth where we don't have to rent another larger piece of equipment on top of this to complete that work. We are recommending the lease of the 60-month for this equipment. We do not currently have the funds in the Roads Reserve equipment to purchase this piece of equipment. It would offset our cost for the 2026 tandem plow. If administration chooses not to go the way of the lease, we'd suggest defeating this and revisiting this during the 2026 budget time.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from around the table? We'll go Deputy Mayor Lang, then Councillor Jaworski, then Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, guys, for bringing this report forward. I've been looking forward to this happening for quite a while. I think that not just the $50,000 that we've been paying rental, I think there's numerous times that we could use it if we had it, where we may not go out and rent it, but we would actually use it. And we definitely know that even on the one culvert you guys changed near Ogerley's there, what the amount of money that was saved just doing that one culvert. And we have a very skilled operator, so maybe more than one. It's good to have it, I think, in the township. Mr. Milne, I called you and asked about buyout, just because if we're looking at purchasing or leasing, the buyout is pretty critical, and I just want to know if there was any change to the number you gave me this afternoon, or if you'd found out anything further.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the buyout that was included for this, for the Brandt tractor, was $130,000 at the end of the 60-month lease, and that is only for the machine itself. That does not include the equipment or the attachments like the flail, the mower, the buckets, and the quick attaches. It was specified that it is too hard to put a value on that because of the wear and tear that goes into those pieces of equipment. He couldn't give a price to supply those with the buyout at that time. So
Understandable, but at the same time, we need to know if that, if the equipment, like the equipment's worth, I'm just guessing, but I know that you'd said the chipper is close to 60,000 and buckets, and I don't know if that includes the quick attach, the pin grabber, or the thumb as well, or if they might be considered part of the machine. But we would need to know where we stand on those. If we're owning them at the end, like, because to me, at the end of this, I don't think we're likely going to put the 1,000 hours a year, and I think because of the fact we have our own mechanic, it's going to be looked after well. I think it's going to be worth more than the buyout at the end. I'm quite convinced of it. So we're likely going to be looking at buying it out. So I just want to make sure that we have a number, that, you know, that they can't just come up with a number at the end. Oh, well, we're going to put this value on the other equipment. We kind of have to have something. Or we buy the attachments and lease the excavator, which would be perfectly fine with me. And then we know exactly where we stand. And a bucket and so forth, if we were to lease another one, they're going to last, I'll be long gone before you wear the buckets out. So as long as we change the cutting blade once in a while. So I would be happy with that. But I just think we want to know exactly where we stand. But at the 130, it comes out the lease is cheaper than the purchase without any interest. You're $10,000 less. So we just need to know where those buckets are. But I'm more than willing to support it, and you guys finalize those details. I don't think we need to hash it, put it off another month. But I just want to make sure we know where we stand.
Thank you. I think you answered your own questions through there, so I don't think there's a question outstanding. Councillor Jaworski.
I think Deputy Mayor, thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald, I think Deputy Mayor Lang said most of what I wanted to say. But maybe it gets, again, excellent piece of equipment. It's obviously key to be able to do the work, but I was wondering if you could expand a little bit more on the skill of the operators that I assume we do have, or I know we have, that are able to operate this equipment such that we really are able to realize these savings that Deputy Mayor Lang is talking about.
Yeah, so we do currently have, sorry, Mr. Mayor, we do have one operator who is trained and runs the equipment very well. We do have a couple up-and-coming operators also that are working their way to it. So we would use this machine to its full extent. There's just going to be a little bit of time maybe in the spring where it won't be used, but other than that, if we're not out cleaning snow, we'll be brushing. If we're not, like, yeah, we would use this machine a lot more, and we do have the operators to do it.
Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, along the same lines as the Deputy Mayor's comments and questions, maybe it's, I think you've gone, I think it's within your powers to go back at this point that it's not changing the scope of the RFP to, overly to kind of, if you have to structure it differently, that we're purchasing the attachments whole out because they'll last well beyond the life of this excavator and into another one. If it is that much more advantageous to lease the machine and pay the buyout in the end, because I agree, I think it will be, if the buyout's $130,000, I can't see why it wouldn't be in the $200,000 range, especially as we see the inflation costs of machines and what used machines are now selling for in today's market and have been for the last 5-6 years. So I'm fairly confident there'll be more residual value for ourselves there, but especially on a trade-in. But I think this, I've been looking forward to this as well. I think this is going to, we'll see a lot more savings than just the $50,000 a year that we're paying in rentals. I know that's a very safe number for you guys to use in preparing the report, but I know we have a newer backhoe that we've purchased in the last 2 or 3 years. We have one that's not slated for replacement, and we'll cross that bridge when it does come to end of life. But I was 6:30 this morning, 7 o'clock, pulling out of a field, and I had to stop and wait for the township truck, and the backhoe that's not really in service but still is in service off to do a job. So I think we're using our equipment well and beyond its capabilities, and I think that having this excavator there is going to put us that much further ahead. And if we are truly not replacing that backhoe, there's a lot of applications. I know Mr. Levac's aware, there's a few of them down my end of the world where it requires two at times, so it was whether you're trying to put posts in and move stones around. So anyways, I think this would be a very good addition to the fleet and will more than likely save us, I would venture to say at least 50 to towards 100 a year in costs and rentals, and the opportunity of getting more projects done in-house with our guys and where you guys see fit and available. So thank you for bringing this, and I hope to see the what the best option will be, whether it is buying, but if you come back with those numbers, I'd like to see that go forward.
Thank you, Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for all the info, and I concur with my colleagues. I mean, it seems like the John Deere is the one that will kind of meet all of our needs and then some. I'm comfortable with the 60-month lease. So just one question about the hours. It says 1,000 hours per year, max 5,000 hours over the term. Do we have any issues about going over 1,000 hours in a year? Is that any concern, or you guys that's more than enough to suit our needs?
Yeah, we feel that's more than enough to suit the needs of the roads department. It'd be an option to look at if we do come close to it, in 5 years. This is our first time owning our own piece like this, so we're not kind of exact on the hours, but we're going to figure it out as we go after the 5 years.
I suppose I just have a question, because the O'Girley drain comes up as like one of the big wins for our crew. Do we have enough over the next, say, 5 to 10? Well, we'll talk 5 years from now. Like more of those drains or structures that we have. Like, would we, by using this on a 60-month lease, which I do like the idea. I don't know if it was in the report or something the CO mentioned to me, is that we have the time. Perhaps like we'll catch up on all those big projects and then we can reevaluate at that time. Maybe you didn't use those words exactly, but I like the lease for that reason, because typically we are a buying culture. I think that's kind of persistent since 2010's council, whenever we can. So I was just, the question would be like, are there, and maybe it's not fair on the spot, but are there other big wins out there that you can see, or are there enough big wins for 5 years of ownership? Or, yeah.
Yeah, it'll just give us the ability to kind of react better to situations. Definitely, like, we'll be able to change culverts versus waiting to have a shovel floated in. We'll just drive to site and change the culvert. As far as doing big structures, that'll be too small for some of the very large structures we have in the township, but for all the regular smaller stuff, it'll do just fine.
We likely have dozens, if not hundreds, of small things to do. So that will be great savings across the board. So I'll just read the, well, just before doing that, I would also like to highlight that James Levac received his intermediate road superintendent certification from AORS this year. And I'd like, since he's up there, a round of applause, everyone. All right, so the report or the resolution was read. So all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. So next up is residential entrance exception request 9 High Street. Ms. McDonald, moved by, Deputy Mayor Bougie. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be resolved that staff report 2025-64 be received, and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry receive the May 12th, 2025 delegation by Lyle Warden requesting an exception to the current entrance practices to allow for an additional entrance for urban residential property identified as PIN 67135064. 3. At 9 High Street, Lancaster, and direct administration, and there are 2 options. Not authorize the exception and allow a single entrance to the property, which is recommended, or option B, authorize a second entrance for the property that conforms to the current township standards. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is fairly straightforward. Administration did not authorize a second entrance, keeping with current entrance practices. I know they do exist out in South Glengarry. However, it's not the current practice. However, if council would like to authorize a second one, that is at your discretion. A few examples of where administration would authorize a second entrance, just so it's not, people don't come back later and point at us, would be on a very long rural property that fronts on 2 roads. So if you have your house at one end and you need a field access at the other, that's when we would say, yep, go ahead, or for field entrances, keeping with our policies. However, in residential areas we typically say no, just one entrance per property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe there was quite a bit of conversation at the last meeting, but I'll let Councillor McDonnell go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just based on the drawings and the renderings that we received and that were discussed at the delegation at the last meeting, just had a question in regards to the size of the entranceway that would be allowed if council were to go with the second entrance. Will it be? It'll be the entrance standard to multi-residential, correct? It'll be the. Is it the? I can't remember if it's 6 meters or 7 meters or 3 meters.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it would be the semi-detached 6 to 8 meters. And when I scaled the third drawing that had the shared entrance, that fell within that 6 to 8 meters. So as long as this drawing is to scale, then it would meet current township standards.
Okay, I guess I'll just say personally, if that's fine with the request, I'm fine to just do the 2 separate driveways. I'm in support of doing 2 regardless. Personally, I have no problem with putting 3 entranceways in, but that's a discussion, I guess, for the rest of council.
Councillor Bougie.
Thank you for that. Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the info. And I'm also, comfortable with, for the second structure on that piece of property, sharing a driveway. I mean, to me, I reviewed the traffic counts and I can see that side of it, but to me, it makes sense that that second driveway is permitted and that second structure would share that driveway. So I'm leaning towards option B.
Okay, thank you. And just to, option that Councillor McDonnell was talking about was the 2, and Councillor Bougie is talking about the 2 together? Or are we talking about, option B on here? Okay.
Option B, but I was open to amending option B to a third driveway.
On the resolution, sorry, that's true. We've already had that discussion. I just got a little confused there. Thank you very much. Councillor Jaworski?
You can tell from my facial expression I wanted to say something. Thank you, through Mayor McDonald. Yeah, the wording of the resolution, maybe I'm a little bit confused by, but I'm not going to repeat everything that was said at the delegation, but like what I'm comfortable with is the versions of the driveway that are kind of proposed on, I guess it's called the proposed revised drawing, where it shows the 2 driveways, or it shows kind of 2 parking stalls side by side. That's the version based on my conversations with staff and what's been presented so far. That's the one I'm comfortable with.
Okay, now I believe the proponent was also comfortable with that, if I recall. So I'm sorry that I brought some confusion to the resolution there, and thank you for bringing me back to option A and B from the staff report.
Yeah,
Councillor
no,
McDonnell.
apologies. I kind of created the confusion there. I said that I was fine having 3 driveways, but no, the option that I'm comfortable with is B, if that's what the proponent is requesting. So.
Okay, great. Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, everybody's going to get a few words on this, so I might as well get mine in. But I won't repeat. I'm in agreement with everybody, and just generally speaking, where possible, we give the residents or the property owner what they would like to do on their property if we can possibly do it, and that's what I think we should continue to do. They're the ones that are putting the money in, investing. Putting another property or another building on this is going to bring more taxes for eternity, likely, or whatever we consider eternity, our lifetime. But and I think where we can, we try to help them and get them what they want. It's their property, and they're the one investing the money. So I'm all in favor.
Okay. So it's, I'll read for option B. It is to authorize a second entrance for the property that conforms to the current township standards. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 8H, Sapphire Estate Phase 5, extension to top course asphalt. This is Ms. McDonald again. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-65 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry acknowledges that the schedule for the application of the top course asphalt on roads located in Sapphire Estates Phase 5 subdivision is extended from on or before October 2022 to on or before October 2028 to allow the preservation of the road infrastructure during housing construction, and furthermore, that administration is directed to not enforce item 2 in Schedule G of the Sapphire Estates Phase 5 subdivision agreement until October 2028, being the clause authorizing the township to carry out any unfinished construction of the works at the developer's expense. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration has been going through our subdivision files recently and just checking in with the developers who are outside of their timelines to see when they might be completing their infrastructure construction. This is one such site, and the developer, we agree with them when they wrote back and said, you know, it's nice that you've given us 3 years from 2022. However, we believe that there's more construction coming, and that putting that top list on right now would not be in the best interest of the township's future infrastructure. So we have prepared this very lengthy resolution, and I feel like I'm part of the planning, building, and enforcement department tonight with my resolution length. Yeah. One of the reasons that we're doing this through resolution is that to amend the subdivision agreement would require it to be put on title for everyone who's bought a lot, and it's a bit cumbersome. So by doing it through council in a public process, we can satisfy some of that need. And if council approves this resolution, then we will prepare a formal letter for everyone who owns property in that Sapphire Estates Phase 5 to notify them of the extension. And the second part of the resolution is just that administration will not go and install that top lift and then charge the developer back per the subdivision agreement until at the earliest October 2028 to allow them time to get that top lift in and hopefully see that entire subdivision develop and have some wonderful new estate lots built. So thank you.
I'll give you a pass on the resolution length, because sometimes it's former Schlottenberg of Lancaster, now known as this, as PIN number, and maybe this legally described as. That being said, Councillor Jaworski has a question or comment.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Ms. McDonald, for this. My question to you is there any downside to doing this? Or, I mean, it sounds like we're properly protected. I just want to double check.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as long as the institutional knowledge remains that in October 2028, we want to check in again and confirm that either they are ready, or well, not October 20, early 2028, the township needs to check in and say you need to pave this year. And at that time, I would likely not be recommending a further extension, because at that time we will have had, I don't know, 6 years since the original lift, and it wouldn't be great. So like now, no danger, but maintaining that institutional knowledge and continuing the subdivision check-in with all of our developers as they go along is key.
This is good. This is similar to Broad Street that was not redone when the village was done because of heavy equipment. Why put something down only to be beat up? So trying to use this as a segue, because I had a few things I was supposed to say at the start of the meeting, but I forgot. So if you're not here or Mrs. Haley is not here, then we'll make sure that our new planner, community planner, Joshua Hutton, so I'll give a round of applause to introduce him to the township. This is Joshua Hutton. Only 2 more things on this to go. All right, with no other questions or comments from council, all those in favor? Carried. So we'll move to bylaws, solid waste management bylaw, first and second reading. Again, Ms. McDonald, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 2025-66 be received into the bylaw, 2025-28 being the bylaw to regulate the collection and management of solid waste in the township of South Glengarry be read a first, second, and third time in open council this 9th day of June. Sorry? Oh, first and second time. I was on a roll here, faking it until I make it. So it's a first and second time in open council this 9th day of June 2025. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And council will remember in March, administration came forward with a key information report outlining, well, we had a draft of the bylaw and received council's comments. I've summarized council's comments as best as my notes allowed me in this staff report, and how we addressed them in the bylaw put forward for first and second reading. If there's anything that was missed, I do apologize, but I do believe this to be complete. Council's comments on our pre-draft, I'll call it, was how would IC&I be defined and how that interact with the agricultural land use. And I believe that we have included, not I believe, but I believe we've addressed it by including a definition for agricultural waste, which provided by the Environmental Protection Act, and then our own definition for IC&I, so institutional, commercial, and industrial, which excludes agricultural waste. So IC&I would not include what ag waste would be. Hopefully that satisfies. Of course, we had suggested in March clear bags for curbside collection. That was loud and clear. A decision was made, I believe, last meeting. So that was removed from this version. And in listening to the folks at the public meetings, as part of an approved container, we also include feed bags in this version, so that if anybody is putting out feed bags, they can't be turned away the curb because it would be included in our solid waste bylaw. So that is one positive that came out of that whole, many positive things I think came out, but that was one takeaway that was directly applicable to our proposed bylaw. Administration had proposed perhaps not proposed, we had put the feelers out to see if council was interested in expanding the landfill hours. No, so the landfill hours remain the same in this draft. And we talked about accepted and prohibited waste for disposal at the landfill. And our initial draft had come down fairly hard, as administration, the mayor has noted, is responsible for protecting the asset. And then council kind of softens us and considers the community on occasion. So in saying that, we had proposed no residential construction waste at all. And council felt that was a little restrictive. So how we're proposing to handle that is not necessarily through this particular bylaw, but our comprehensive fee bylaw does include the option for people to haul in single axles, tandems, and tractor trailers to our landfill for a fee. So if we remove that transport type arriving at our landfills, then we would effectively remove anyone bringing in substantial waste of that nature, and any residential construction material generated by like a homeowner who's doing a small renovation would likely fit in that hydraulic dump trailer. And we have 2 free landfill passes a year. So if a resident, I'm going to use my family, my father just renovated, took out the floors in like half of his house and put in new ones, and he was able to bring with just 1 trailer load to the dump. So that, I think, if you have 2 hydraulic dump trailers, that would satisfy the average like do-it-yourselfer at home in a year. So that is how we kind of tiptoed around that. But we're, again, first and second reading, so anything that council would like to see changed, we're happy to do that. The bylaw would come into effect August 5th. Our intent is to come back next council meeting with the third and final reading, so that gives administration just over a month to communicate any changes to people so they can make other plans. In the draft bylaw, anything in orange has changed since last time for council's easy identification. So thank you.
Thank you. I saw Deputy Mayor Lang, and then following him, we'll go to Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thanks for the report, and I think you got it. For me, anyway. I mean, I read it all, and I really appreciate the figuring out how to deal with the agricultural waste and not penalizing the farmers that live in the community, and still being able to get it in there the best we can. And at the same time, we know that, well, we have been doing a lot better job at extending the life of our landfill. I mean, the numbers are starting to show it, and if we can do a little more, I think it'd be great. And I really would like to discourage people that are bringing in these large truckloads from out of our municipality. So, and I think this will help with that. So I don't know. We'll see if anybody else got any comments or something I missed, but for me, you got it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, and along the same lines as the Deputy Mayor, I think we're very, very close with this, and I think it's right on. I think the agriculture separation was very good. I'm thankful for that. I think it reflects the community and some of the concerns that were maybe out there. The only thing I had seen was the only concern I had, and I had heard it from a few of our local contractors, was residential construction, demolition, or renovation materials for the transport size of a dump trailer. Some of the general contractors around, that's fine, that's what they use, that's what they've got. I heard it more from some of our excavation companies around the municipality that, okay, well, we've got a large demolition going on in Baynesville. Do we have to now we have to ship that to GFL in a dump truck if we're doing a rebuild or along those lines. The only concern that was brought from that was that it maybe encourages loads coming back to a landing zone, say, where it'll be improperly disposed of, whether it's burned or things like that. It wasn't a threat or by any means that way. It was, if I'm paying my taxes, could I not use this as an opportunity? I don't know how many full demolitions. I don't know if there's a way to do it where we would accept those if there was a demolition permit open for that property, and they would pay a larger rate for bringing in dump truck loads, obviously. Just throwing it out there that it was a concern that I had heard from a few local contractors that way. So that was the only exception I had to the deputy mayor's. I think you've got it 100%, but I think you're very close. I don't know if there's how, it's difficult because our, planning and building, it's not like we could be sitting at the landfill site and our attendant could say, let me check the computer system to see that you have an active demolition permit, whether it's on the contractors to prove that, and nothing says that they're running on the same one. You hate to say there's bad actors out there, but there's always one in every bunch, and I agree. I'm one of the big proponents that I watch when I'm out cutting the grass on Saturday or on a Thursday. I see a Quebec plated truck with a dump bin coming up the County Road 18 and comes back by and then back with another one, and I can't imagine where they're coming from, but there's not many large construction projects happening in Bridgend these days, so I would assume it's coming across the border and strictly for the cost of the fees. So we have to put an end to that, and it's difficult to not penalize our people that way, but I don't know if there's some creative way we can come to it. But I'll leave that with you, and if you deem not to be, I'll take your opinions that way. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you. I have two questions through you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, and one was actually to Councillor McDonald, just to make sure I understood him correctly. Was the concern that the load would go to GFL and be rejected, and that's why it would come back? I'm not sure if I heard you correctly.
Just the cost of shipping from, example, Banesville, Lancaster, Somerstown, all the way up the 138. It's strictly a cost thing, and
Thank you. I wasn't sure when you said it, what you had meant. Ms. McDonald, if I may, to Ms. McDonald, I know we have restrictions to, like, in our environmental compliance certificates on what we are actually allowed to accept. And if you could refresh my memory, I believe one of them, we're not even supposed to take any commercial waste at all.
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I pulled them, and one specifically says that we can accept residential and IC&I, or maybe it's just and the other one says you can accept non-hazardous waste, but it's very vague. Yeah. However, to Councillor McDonald's point, and I'm sorry to piggyback, the last demo that we had in South Glengarry it's to provide council with an understanding of how much waste. It was 20 tandems, and it wasn't a large demolition, so it's a lot of waste. It's like 20 snowplow trucks worth of waste for one demo.
All right, then we read a first and second time. When would you like feedback between? Oh, yes, of course. Deputy Mayor Lang, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I'm just thinking about what Councillor McDowell said and about contractors, and I'm sympathetic to them, but at the same time, when we get to 2039, they're going to take every single load somewhere else and pay the bigger bucks. And we're going to have to take every single load that we pick up from our residents and pay the bigger bucks. So everybody's going to pay at that point. And to me, I understand everybody wants to be able to price their job as low as they can, and understandably so. But when they're hauling these big trucks, and multiple loads, there is a fee attached to that. They are, they're being paid to demolish that and haul it away. So the fee is going to be a little bit higher to the resident. At least I hope they were passing the savings that they were getting at our landfill on to the resident. I'm sure they must have been. But I think for the greater good, to me, if we can keep our residential garbage going into the landfill longer, by doing this, it benefits the majority. That's kind of where I'm coming from. And I think we've kind of tried to have a balance here, and I think we've got the balance where, somebody that's, no, we're not sending you with your pickup truck to GFL or anybody. We're saying that you can continue to go. It's just the bigger jobs they're paying jobs that somebody's, putting, a quote in to say, I'll demolish the building for the X amount of dollars. So that's kind of where I'm at, because like you say, that's a lot of loads to go in, and if we can extend this, then everybody benefits a little longer.
All right, thank you. Well, those are two things to consider for our, I guess, third and final reading. And when would you like our comments if we have further to this, to make sure that you can meet your timelines?
If council is agreeable by next Monday, that would allow me to have everything for the next council meeting. I can continue to the August 5th date.
Okay, thank you. So then next Monday, if you can, and you've heard comments from Councillor McDonnell and Deputy Mayor Lang as to that, and I guess if you have any solutions for that, great. If not, we can have that discussion at that point and change little things. But it seems like you've hit it pretty much on the head here. Okay, all those in favor of the motion as read, carried. So moving to the consent agenda, there was one item pulled by, I believe, 3 people. Same one, 2025 large item pickup week summary. I'll just throw it to the floor. We'll go Councillor Bougie.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, I guess, Ms. Dixon that put this together, this report, for large garbage pickup. Definitely an eye-opener. 45 loads of garbage at the landfill, and when we usually have 8 loads of material on a given week. So a significant amount of garbage that went into the landfill. I mean, I am an advocate of big garbage pickup, but I mean, it seems like a lot of staff time as well on top of those 45 loads of garbage as well. So, I mean, my question, I guess, was to Ms. McDonald, and I guess the concern of out-of-jurisdiction material. We're one of the only ones that continue to do it. And it does worry me that a lot of the material, not a lot, but some material is coming from outside of South Glengarry, and we're taking other people's garbage basically for free. So that is a concern for sure. Maybe to Ms. McDonald, how does this compare, I guess, in terms of loads of garbage from last year, and how was the complaints or that your staff got for non-pickup or issues like that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, two really good questions. We didn't track loads last year. I suspect we had fewer because we were more discriminate in what we picked up at the curb. I think this year there was fatigue at all levels in enforcing large items only in 2 bags. So everything went this year. The call volumes were down. They were still high. It unfortunately also corresponded with our tax due date. So there was, heavy item calls coming to the front along with people trying to pay their tax bills. So that was a bit unfortunate. It's a busy week for sure at the office. The calls were down. The number of missed collections that we received online were way down. I heard less about people being frustrated that their smaller items weren't being taken because everything was taken. Unfortunately, I can't tell you how many loads last year because we didn't count. But 45, well, we did this year, and 45 was shocking to me that it was quite that high. Thank you.
And just for the public who may not watched that, I'm sorry if you mentioned this stat whenever I was asking a question, it's normally 8 loads is a week, right? So 45 loads is 5 and a bit weeks, and you had mentioned that. Yeah. I thought that was a interesting fact to have, but I believe Councillor Jaworski and perhaps Deputy Mayor Lang also had asked for this poll, so go ahead, Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through Mayor McDonald, a comment and a question, just sort of looping back to what Ms. McDonald had said earlier about a demolition and that being about 20 loads. So I'm not sure if the load sizes here we're talking about are similar, but that would mean that that demolition was like 2.5 weeks worth of garbage of the entire township. So again, there's, all of these things have impacts, and we have to, balance what what's reasonable in terms of service level and cost. When it comes to heavy pickup, if I recall, like the cost ends up being, I mean, it's not like they give us a hard price tag. It comes back to what, how much loading they've done. So I believe last year it was like in the 50,000 range. No, is it 17? Or maybe I'm getting confused. Am I getting confused with hazardous waste pickup? But I guess thanks. So maybe, yeah, if you could just speak to sort of what kind of cost. But I'll make one more comment. Just, there's some comments about, what we could do for the next steps. And certainly, like I've expressed this the last time at budget, I'm still very supportive of putting some funds towards doing this. Again, it's super valued. It's very, very valued, but how can we do it better? So whether it be, different types of resources or dealing with specific items in a slightly different way, I'd be supportive of putting some funding towards that. So yeah, if you could speak to what you think the cost might end up being. Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a lump sum cost. It was $17,000 in 2021. There'll have been CPI on top of that, so we'd be in maybe the $22,000 plus some fuel adjustment, so 23, 24, 25,000 for this week. We did receive excellent service from a contractor this year. They put more trucks on the road. They were ready for it. They pulled in drivers from that were servicing other municipalities to keep collection going well into the night. If you read on Facebook, people were seeing trucks come by at like 10 p.m., 11 p.m. at night just to get this done for us. So it's like the value we received for our $17,000 to $25,000 was excellent. They did a really good job, and they're non-discriminate picking up of all the things. Thank you.
And I think if I just you said in their non-discriminate picking up of things, which is not what I think the contract says, right? So they made it easier for everybody, but it wasn't what the desired level of service was at present. Would that be correct? Or is that unfair?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to refrain from commenting. I don't have the contract in front of me. It says large item pickup, but I don't remember how detailed it got. Thank you.
Okay, because this year I imagine there was considerably less comments, and it's just one of those things sometimes. It reminds me of the 401 when they had, it's like 10 trucks and a certain service level, and they realized to hit their service level, they only needed 8 trucks, but that 8 trucks then resulted in poorer service, which people noted. And I think that's what happened last year. So I suppose it is council's will what service, and I imagine we were probably happier with the complaints this year versus last year, but it is certainly a large amount. Deputy Mayor Lang, and sorry to interrupt that.
Just fine. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. So I did catch some grief after being the lone one to want to cancel this thing last year. And a few people complained to me, and maybe rightfully so, but anyway. It is an expensive enough thing, and I got 0 calls this year. Last year I got a pile of calls. I got people threatening to put the stuff on my lawn because it hadn't been picked up. And there's a couple of people I actually went and picked it up myself. This year I got 0. But reading the report, it says that, staff, viewed a number of things in there, the mattresses, tires, some scrap metal, some e-waste, stuff that we really, so the collectors this year just basically picked everything up. So nobody had anything to complain about. But it wasn't all necessarily, maybe shouldn't all been there. So it made less calls for us, and likely the reason for less calls to the township as well, but not necessarily a great thing. Anyway, if it's the will of council, I'm okay continuing on with it. I would like to see if there's ways we can get it pared down to the way it should have been. I had a question. Right at the beginning of our staff report, that picture, is that an actual picture from this township of stuff that was out, or is that just a general picture from somewhere?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that was collected in South Glengarry on heavy pickup week.
Because that's somebody that doesn't want to follow the 3-bag limit and saved it for 6 months and put it all at once, I think. But anyway, that's a pile of stuff. But I don't know if that was the purpose of our large item pickup. It looks like anyway. So well, I guess, it's interesting to see. I'm willing to continue doing it if the council wants to continue doing it. But I just sometimes wonder if it's worth it.
And if I may weigh in on that, because sometimes I don't have to speak because the vote is done before. So I'm sorry that you got all the flack for that as the only counselor, because I would have been in favor of that too. So please send some of that discouragement my way, because as much as I didn't have to say anything for that particular vote, I would share that opinion, because I feel the two free dump days. I've never used one myself, but if I had a lot of items, that I could kindly find its way to the dump that way. Councillor McDonnell had a comment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would agree. It was, as far as my view of it, based on the complaints that I received and the lack of threats I had of garbage being dumped at my laneway or at my house, I was very, I was happy with the way the contractors performed. They did work late into the night. It was great to see. Glad to see they were able to get it done like that. Maybe there's some kind of a little white lie that can go out in the future of, we aren't going to pick it up, so maybe it's a bit of a threat. Somebody gets angry, doesn't put it out, but we would collect it if it was sitting there, just based on for the ease of the program. But I know that I did notice they were a bit selective. I won't say they didn't pick everything up. I have noticed tires left on the side of the road. They did not collect tires. There were a number of things that way, so they did follow the rules and. In maybe the more serious circumstances where this is a clear no-go for garbage, so we're not going to take them, and they stayed there a couple of days and people roll them in. So no, I was very happy with it. I don't know if it's communications, if we can try and encourage people to don't put that picture out a week before, but if you've got some steel and things like that, put it at the end of the lane any day of the week. Somebody's going to stop and pick it up. So little things like that, we can maybe, I don't know if it's through communications, but it is a very valued service that we provide, and we hear about it often anytime it comes up for a discussion. So thank you to staff for dealing with that week and getting through it, and appreciate the work that goes into it.
All right, thank you. So that's the consent agenda. Board and committee update. Oh, sorry. Read this. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Normally I forget to go to boards and committees, but that was my last segue. So interestingly, you'll note that Ms. Dixon is here in lieu of Mrs. Campo, and because she's in Windsor receiving her Certified Municipal Officer accreditation. With this, Mrs. Campo has received all accreditations offered by the AMCTO, with the exception of one. Mrs. Campo has also recently been elected by her peers in the AMCTO to present them as a Director of Large on the AMCTO, which is the Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers Ontario Board of Directors for the 2025-2026 term. So before clapping for that one, I believe you also had a parliamentarian achievement recently. So for our clerk and our deputy clerk, a round of applause, please. And we'll get to board and committee updates. SDG counties, I believe they had a special meeting, but most of it was in closed session. And at risk of reporting over that, we'll just skip that one. I don't believe there were any other groups, and I forgot to ask council beforehand, aside from RRCA. So if you did have a meeting outside of that, let me know. But we'll go to RRCA. I have it open here just so I don't forget anything. It was held at Cooper's Marsh, and we've been using that facility a little bit more, which is kind of fun. We were presented our 2024 financial statements. Not to beat around the bush, I believe we were considerably over budget, near 20%. And that will be rectified in the 2025 financial 2025 year. We used reserves to cover that. Statement of operations shows that we are below expected expenses for 2025. The strategic action plan, which was done this year, and it's the first time that was done since 2002. So now there's some strategic direction. Good timing, because there's been several changes to that act in the last 3 years. We formed a corporate services working group, and you have two of the finest on that board on it, Deputy Mayor Lang, myself, as well as Councillor Massey from North Glengarry. So we'll be looking through a few things on how to work on keeping 20% down. I say that as a half joke, but yeah, we're looking at how to present things better and how to really engage the board a little bit more, because there's a lot of great work going on, and sometimes it's just nice to tell it in a different way. So we're helping out there. 2024 annual report is regular wetland establishment enhancement projects. So they spend $1.2 million a year enhancing wetlands, and they get a list of equipment, and it goes from $8.95 an hour to $4 something, and just for varied equipment. So they've got approval for that, but that's quite a bit, and they're quite successful with grant submissions. So if ever you need a grant for anything environmental ourselves, please reach out to RRCA. And with that, I don't think there were any other council committee updates. Okay,
Yeah.
Councillor Jaworski.
Through you, Mayor McDonald. Well, Councillor McDonnell suggested that I speak briefly about an item that is related to the Glengarry, well, both the Glengarry County Archives and the museum here in Williamstown, where it was the bus tour, the Glengarry Rambles tour. It was Hidden Histories of Charlottenburg Township. And they had 4 dates that were all sold out. And I was fortunate enough to go on one of those dates. And it was, it was fantastic. And it was to the benefit of both the Glengarry Pioneer Museum and the museum here in Williamstown. So, yeah, if folks, I mean, part of this is almost like, how do we preserve these kind of stories so that as folks age, that we have these unique storytellers who are full of fantastic stories? How do we make sure that those stories stay alive? That's what came to mind. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's a great example, because we've lost a few storytellers over the recent years, and might as well digitize them, similar to that. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to tack on to that as well, that if somebody could tie Alan McDonald to a chair and get the stories of the county out of him on camera, somebody work on that, that'd be great. He's a wealth of knowledge. He does this, maybe a little plug to Alan here. He does this free of charge. It's his time. He puts these tours together, schedules it all, and he doesn't charge the municipality for that time, or of South Glengarry or North Glengarry, and all of the money that is made is returned to our local museums in the townships, and it's a service to ourselves and to the public that gets to enjoy the time with him and his stories and knowledge that he gets to share. So, a little thank you to Alan there, and I believe that was the last township he had to do. He's done all the northern townships. He did Lancaster in the fall. Charlottenburg is done, and I believe he has one more planned, and it's specific to 34 from Lancaster to the end of North Glengarry at, I guess they consider it Dalkeith, but Breadalbin area. So if anybody hasn't gotten the chance to take one of his tours, you got one last chance. So that'll be announced, I think, for the fall probably.
And good point, him, because he has, he could have a little history about yourself as you walk in, because when we went on one of our tours at the county, he's like, "Did you know you're a rare McDonald?" And I said, "Well, I like the sound of that." But apparently most McDonald's at the time were Catholic, so there's not a lot of Protestant McDonald's. So in that way, my family was somewhat unique with our name, and I did know that, and that's the kind of thing that, without him, you wouldn't have it. And many of us could walk in and he'd have a historical story that is very individual. So very good point to bring him up and highlight him as an. Yeah, so that's 1% of the county in 1852, Councillor McDonnell said. So yeah, perfectly rare. Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up, and Councillor McDonnell for encouraging it. Moved by Councillor McDonnell. This is our confirming bylaw, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-28, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 9th day of June 2025. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the Chair at 8:44 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Go Edmonton, go.